Welcome back, everybody. In this video, we're going to be discussing Elliott Capos. Is there a capo that's worth over $200? We're going to be discussing all the different models as well as telling you why you should have one. So what we can do right now, Jared, if you want, is kind of get into each one of these. We'll talk about what their price points are.
There are a few offerings from them, so let's kind of explain what the difference is.
In fact, I believe there's 5 major models that are being offered right now in the guitar line. We're going to start with the Integrity model. This is the one that's kind of the most basic of theirs, still has the push-button design, comes in at $165, and is their most simplistic model, yet still very, very, very popular. We follow that with the Elliott Guitar Capo, which is one that also has the same saddles, very similar to the Integrity model, but a little bit more refined, a little bit nicer capo.
More polished.
Yeah. And then we get into the most popular one that they make, which is the Elite. This is the slimmest lined of all of them. Very, very small, very stays out of the way. Does have the more McKinney style saddle as well as a push button trap on the top and keeps it in place. And then we get into one of my favorites, and definitely the one that kind of started it all. This one also comes in at $230 as the McKinney model. Now this one is the gate closure on top, a little bit more squared, is a little bit bigger in its shape and size, but has definitely been a kind of
staple,
stalwart, staple in the line for a long time. And then we get to the final version here, which is the Elite Twist. This is basically the jewelry of your guitar right here. Looks absolutely gorgeous. It is exactly the same as the Elite, with a little bit more decorative appeal, coming
they put a twist
at
on it.
$230 as well. Yeah, that's pretty funny. Anyway,
the original with a twist.
So those are the different models that we're going to be talking about today. All of them are great, and we're going to discuss what makes each one of those
specific details
great.
that make them a little bit different. Obviously, with the Integrity, that's going to be more. It's less work done on it, so they don't polish it up as much.
Nope.
The edges of them are a little bit sharper.
It is more, like I said, plain. There are no rounded edges. Even the saddle that is in here is just, it's more squared. It does have a rounded off edge, but it is still there. Now, one of the things that I like about Elliott Capos, and thus the reason why this is less of my favorite, I know it's more affordable, and you do get a lot of the great parts of what makes an Elliott Capo, but the downside here is it does have more loose parts. The saddle is in the way. Another thing that I personally don't care for, the advantage of these capos in general is so small to the neck. There's nothing there. I can get over top of them. I can get around them if I needed to, do whatever I need to, with them there. There's not a whole lot of bulk sticking out on either side. That said, now I've got this extra saddle that is in here that I'm going to bump into and kind of go. I do like the fact that it is more stable. It's not going to turn and all that, but that's the downside. This is a really good, if you're wanting to get into an Elliott, do not have the budget to get one of the more refined models, definitely, and it's going to get you 80% of the way towards one of their top line models. The other model that we don't have sitting here right now is just the Elliott version of that capo. Now that one is a more refined version of the Integrity. It does have that same sort of saddle, but it is much more rounded and shaped and is better, but again, still has that protruding saddle piece. To me, it is a much better version than the Integrity, so there is some stability. The pros of it is that saddle is more stable in there, and that it will never twist and kind of work its way off of the shape of the capo itself. But again, I have that extra little bit, especially if I've got a bigger neck depth-wise here. It's going to be sticking out further from each side of that capo, excuse me. So that would be my downside to that. But again, the pros of it is it's a more stable capo than as far as the saddle.
We don't have one of those to show right now.
We do not right now. Let's follow that with the Elite, which I have in my hands right here. This is actually one of my all-time favorite capos, and if I will be honest with you, is probably to me, if I was going to say what would be the capo that I would pick.
Hey John, what would be the capo that you would pick?
It would be this one, Jared. It would be this one. Even though I have probably more of another one.
Thin profile that is. It's got such a thin, narrow profile.
It's just so small and stays out of the way. There's not a lot of mass. There's enough mass there to find to be, solid. But it's just so small. The push button closure is just genius. It works really, really well. And again, very
No
little
moving
bit of
parts.
movement. You can't hear anything that's there. The saddle's solid. Everything is there. A well-run screw. I do like the knurl on all the Elliott Capos because it's really easy
gripping
to
action.
grip without having anything sticking out, and it's just comfortable even on the sweaty days when you're out there playing shows and stuff. So that's probably my favorite as far as the best design for playing, and that's the reason why it's one of their top sellers. This one right here, it still holds a big fine place. As you see, it's what I have on this guitar right now. This is the McKinney design. This was what Tony Rice, all those guys that kind of came out. I believe he first designed this capo in the late 70s, early 80s. It has this gate closure that is here. Now, what makes that different from some of the other companies that do a gate closure? Again,
The fit and
very
just
little amount of movement.
so well assembled.
You can't hear anything down here, So
When you've got that on your guitar, that's helping transfer energy. It's not like absorbing energy with the looseness of all the different parts. It's all just making it one solid mass that's on your neck, which
and as you look,
helps to
it's
sustain.
not just a floppy case. It is dead set. And again, the details, you'll see that it just fits tight and well. And again, that's one of the big advantages of this. All stainless steel, by the way, on every single capo that they make.
And then this
so it's
goes with
gonna
the
last
highly
forever.
polished, so almost like a jewelry piece.
Like I said, this is the design that kind of started it all. There is a fondness in my heart. I do think that the other one functions a little bit better as the Elites, but there's just a fondness in the fact of the tradition, the character of, my heroes played a capo very similar to this.
Absolutely.
And kind of fell in there. And then, of course, the beautiful twist. Exactly the same design as the Elite. They just work this twist. It reminds me of the custom sissy bars that they would do on choppers and that kind of stuff. Is take that same stainless steel and twist it into a shape.
I was thinking Twizzlers, but
There's that too.
But no, it does make it kind of a little bit more of an art piece that's on your instrument, and not for a major increase in price on that. You're getting something that is very attractive, especially if you got like a very high-end boutique guitar that just looks super attractive on there.
I think there's something to be said for that. We always discuss, why, and we'll cover this. Let's cover that, in general. Why would you want a capo like this? And there's a lot of big reasons, but one of the big ones is it's an all stainless steel hand built capo. That is a big deal, and the big reason behind it is I personally own multiples of these. I own one of them that I have had for close to 25 years.
Yeah, almost 30 now.
Yeah, and I've been using that same capo for this whole time. It is all stainless steel, surgical stainless steel. Very, very hard. Doesn't wear out. I've had nothing that has gone wrong with that capo. It's just performed well. The only things that I've had to do is clean it because, the threads and stuff get dirt and that will kind of wear those down. But it just performs well. It is always here. Another major advantage for these cradle style capos is they never come off of your guitar. So again, we're talking about a capo that I've had for 30 years. The reason, it sits right here when I'm not needing it. It's resting here in the case. It's always with me. It never gets dropped. It never gets left.
And probably the biggest expense with owning a capo is loss. Like
Yes.
the majority of capos, you can buy a $20 to $30 capo, you lose about 10 of them in a 10-year period, where, like you said, you've had one for 30 years because it's just always on your guitar. You take it off to change the strings, but otherwise, it's just there.
That's it. And again, the precision of the Elliott Capo being so well fit to each instrument, there's no extra mass, no extra bulkiness. It's exactly the size I want it to be. I can put it exactly where I want it to be, right behind the fret as close as possible without having any issues. Now, that means very clean. I don't have to tighten it very tight, just tight enough to kind of get the notes to all sound solid. And I'm not bumping into it. It's not something, I can hit it, but it's rare I can play around it. A lot of capos, especially those squeeze clamp ones, have a big mass up here, have extra sticking at the bottom. I'm bumping into that all the time.
Twisting it on
In
the
this,
outing.
yes, I could get there, but if I bump into that, it's easy to work my way around it. I can find my ways, wherever I want to be.
I'm not sure when you're ever going to do that, but yeah, good illustration there.
But it's always there, and it just works. And then the third deal, It sounds silly, but these genuinely do sound different. We've done tests where we've talked about this, and we've actually shown that you can hear a difference in these capos. And almost every time I have ever used one of these capos, it's always sounded solid. It sounds as close to me fretting it with the right amount of pressure, with the right amount of sound, with no deadening or loss of energy at all in the capo.
I think another point to make on the value of it, since we're doing that, is this is a small business down in Texas, a U.S. built capo, and it's just a small business down there with 4 or 5 employees that are very meticulous. It's almost like a little jeweler's shop down there where they got the small magnifying glass, and they're making sure that every piece fits perfectly, gluing the leather piece on there, making sure the hinges fit exactly the way they need to. It's just precision work that's a little bit slow and takes some time, so it adds to the price of it, but you're getting what you're paying for. Like they're putting all the thought, and it's not machine just cranking these things out. They're all hand built.
So now that we've kind of showed you a little bit of the different models that are available, now let's kind of go through a few questions to kind of figure out which one would be the right one. Absolutely. So is there a difference in sound from one of these to the other? Honestly, for me, I have not heard, even with the Integrity model.
You have to have a really good ear.
I didn't, because I think the advantage that's creating the sound difference is, one, the material that they're using for the sleeve for the top bar and the tension that's going on to that. I think you could maybe make some arguments on how the saddle is grabbing the neck to make a difference in sound, but I really don't. I think you're splitting hairs at that point.
There's going to be some minute difference in the density of them, like the Elliott's going to be a larger, the McKinney, is going to be a slightly bigger,
more mass to it,
where the Elliott's definitely more thin and streamlined. And then the Integrity, I think, just in general, it doesn't look as nice, but still got that solid stainless steel. It may be just a little looser fit, so maybe some of that doesn't transfer. But you'd have to have the right machinery to even detect that, and it's not my ears.
Yeah, I don't. I think the main differences are in the building material, less in and style,
the appearance and the feel.
Exactly. One of the things that's really great about Elliott Capos in general is that they can be individually radiused.
Well, they come individually radiused, right?
Yeah, in different sizes too. So in general, for the guitar capos, you're going to see these in an 1 11/16
net width.
In the width of overall. And by the way, that is not the actual top bar measurement. Is not 1 3/4. It's meant to fit a guitar at an 1 11/16, an 1 3/4, an 1 7/8. And all the way up to 2 inches you can get. We usually only see those 3 major sizes. As well as that, you can also get them in individual, except for the Integrity, which only comes in a 16-inch radius. Everything else will be radius to individual ones. We usually stock a 12-inch radius, a 14-inch radius, and a 16, but any of these can be ordered, one in any of the radius for the instrument for your guitar, as well as Elliott will, one time for free, re-radius any capo. So if you actually get one of your capos and started out with a guitar with a 16-inch radius and then move to something like this that has a compound radius and put you at a 14, you can send it back to them. They will then re-radius it for you, get it back to you, and then you will have the perfect.
I assume most of our listeners understand what we're talking about here, but the curve of the fretboard itself is the radius, and a lot of different guitar manufacturers choose a different radius for what they are going for, so how much curvature it has on the fretboard itself. Why is that important that these capos come and match your specific guitar?
Well, the big reason is because, if imagine this. So the 2 biggest, most popular radius is going to be a 12-inch radius and a 16th. And to help you a little bit here, Martin guitars, or most Martin style guitars, are going to come in a 16-inch radius, which is actually fairly flat. It's going to be more flat than a 12-inch radius, which is going to be more rounded. Now imagine again, if you've got that 16-inch radius that is more flat, and then you put it on a 12-inch radius neck that is more rounded, the center of those strings, so your D and G strings, are going to hit solid and leave these other ones to not hit as solid against the fret and be as tight against that. Vice versa, if you have a 12-inch radius capo and put it on a 16, it's going to hit the outside edges and leave that center to be pretty well not touched at all. That's basically what we're gonna be fighting anytime you have that radius
the goal
issue.
is to get an even pressure across all 6 strings.
Exactly.
No matter what the curvature of the neck is. So if the bar itself matches that radius, you can have much better contact and even pressure when you tighten that one screw on the back of the neck.
Now, can you use a 12-inch radius on a 16-inch radius guitar? Yes, but it's just not going to function as well, and you're probably going to tighten it harder than you want to and wear out the mechanism sooner than later, which is not a great thing to do. So there you go. Again,
The original question was, is a capo worth $200? What do you think? Your verdict?
I absolutely believe so. One, in that they just last forever. I love the fact that these capos have all the sustain as if this guitar was open. I don't hear very much difference. I feel the same exact amount of
sustain.
Sustain, same exact tone that I would have if I fretted those instruments, and maybe even better. So just in the fact that they're going to last forever, I'm not going to have to buy multiple $30 capos. By the way, it only takes 10 capos, or less than that, 8 capos, 5, whatever. However, it depends on which model you buy to totally equate what it's going to cost for one of these that's going to last me, like mine, 25, almost 30 years.
And there is a functionality. You're buying a functional piece here that works well for your instrument, and it also looks very attractive. I equate the same thing to buying golf balls. Some people can spend $50 on a sleeve of balls. It's not going to help my game much, but those guys definitely think it's worth it. And I think it obviously has to be if it's on the market for that reason. I think for us playing music all the time, these things are totally worth it. If it's a gift for somebody, they will thank you over and over.
Yeah.
So I'm all for it. I think it is probably surprises some people because you can get a $10 capo, so why spend that much? There's reasons.
Well, one last statement in that world that I want to kind of make is, yes, you'll have $10 capos, and I promise you, you're going to lose in 30 years. You are going to lose 5, if not, more of those capos. Here's the deal. Yes, you only spent $10 each time, but if you just bought the one, you would have enjoyed a better functioning, a better sounding capo that would have made you happy the whole time and spent the same amount of money.
Yep. Good point. All right, guys. If you like that and you want to know if there is actually a tone difference, we did a blind challenge to see if we could pick out these different capos. It doesn't make a difference in the guitar. You might be surprised. I want you guys to check that out. Let us know what you think. Click on this link right here, and we will catch you on another review very soon.